Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. Whether it's happening on the track, in the paddock, or beyond the grid, we'll talk about it all.
And we are back.
Yay.
Back. All right. You wanted me to sing. I did it.
Back to yeah, a little in sync for you.
All right. Here we are. She Loves the Grid. I am Claire.
I'm Diane.
I think we forgot to do that
Welcome.
last time. So
Yes, I think we did. That's okay.
it's okay.
Hopefully
Race week. Yay. We had a race. Oh my gosh.
good. Oh my gosh, like the best. I was in heaven all week. Just all the excitement, right? Like starting Monday, it's race week and then the pressers and the guys, were flying in and just all of it. I every day there was something exciting to wake up to. So
I know. I was so excited. And then, being in Europe, I was like, oh, I've got such the upper hand for like time zones. But then it was in Azerbaijan. And then, oh, how dare they, the races, the FP1 and then the qualifying. I had meetings. I was like, how dare they schedule meetings in the middle of what I need to do during the race? I was not happy. It's like, don't they know
exactly.
my priorities here?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people, the Friday with this new sprint setup, the schedule, Friday being qualifying in the afternoon, most people, you're working, it's FP2, no big deal. You can catch it later. With this sprint um, new schedule, it's going to be a little trickier on Friday afternoons. It tends to be
Yeah,
quiet at my work, so that's good.
I'm gonna have to start planning for that. I get unlimited PTO. I'm just gonna start being like, that check, please. I'd just take the day off. Yeah, it's everyone knows at work that I had this podcast and F1's my thing. So I just got
Oh,
to start taking the day off.
yes, absolutely. Why
Well,
not?
speaking of work, that how was my week? It was work. I was trying to. We were talking about that beforehand. I don't even know. I think the blur of so many weeks of no races and then getting used to the weather here in Berlin. I couldn't tell you how my week was because I don't remember. I don't. I did take apart my Lego cars this week because I take them apart and put them together to
Oh,
sort.
you do?
So yeah, it's because I like to sort and rebuild into new things. So
Oh, okay.
I
Wait,
have not.
I was going to ask how you're doing on the McLaren. Have you started on it?
I have not started on it, but when I start on it, I will tell you because I got to thinking, should I do something fun like just do it all at once, which I probably will do, or
Yeah.
do something crazy like one bag per point they earn, but then that might never get done.
Well, they had 2 points today, so
That's true.
like
That's
you
true.
can do bags one and two.
But
Which
still, yeah, I'm too obsessive. I have to do the whole thing. But anyway, how was your week?
it was good. Kind of the same. Like I said, I was just fully immersed in F1 and living, breathing, all of it. My mom came into town Friday. She's here for a couple weeks, so that's why I'm in a different spot today. If you're watching us on our YouTube, I'm in a different spot filming,
Hey,
and
you're not
uh,
purple.
and I'm not purple today. I did not go and do what Claire was telling me to do after our podcast last week. So
So
just
miraculously, the camera works.
miraculous that it's working. So yeah, just very, very chill. We did a lot of shopping yesterday, got some new shoes for Europe, for Barcelona, and
30 days. 30 days.
yeah, trying to get my gear together because it's going to be here before we know it.
Yes, and speaking of gear, we are going to wrap up getting some merch ready. So soon we'll be launching our She Loves the Grid merch because
I
we've got to
have
get that
one.
ready.
Honestly, when I was looking at that stuff the other day, I think the thing I'm probably most excited about is the crossbody bag. I was telling my mom about it, and I've got to show her afterwards. But I actually think that's going to be so handy for a race because it's cute. You could still get your stuff in it, whatever you need to haul. So, but I like when I'm traveling, I like a crossbody. I don't ever do that outside of traveling. I just like to be able to have it right here.
Yeah, I
So
like the design of that. I like the hat looked really cute. And then I mean
the bucket
I'm a
hat.
t-shirt person. I'm such a I love my t-shirts. So I'm
Yes.
looking forward to all the different t-shirts and some ideas on we could do on that. So
Yeah.
woo,
So exciting. Okay,
great.
team updates this week because like I said, I was fully immersed. So Alpha Tauri, Franz Tost announced that he's retiring. And my first thought went immediately to Yuki because like we talked last week, it was all about Yuki last week. And when I listened to the podcast, they had brought up that Franz had said he was planning to retire. I think they said by the time he turned 70, and you could tell it caught Yuki off guard. And he said, well, how old is he now? And I think they said 67. I just remember him saying, like, okay, I've got 3 more years. Like, you could tell he was processing it. So when I saw that announcement, I did put on our social media, somebody please check on Yuki, because I knew this was going to hit him hard. I think Franz has really taken Yuki under his wing. I mean, after that first season that he was in F1, I think a lot of people were ready to write him off. We talked about it last week, so we don't have to go into it, but just the immaturity and the yelling. And he said, nope, send him to me. Because I think at that point, Yuki was in England. He said, send him to me. Got him, the training, again, took him under his wing. So, so the end of this year. And then we have Laurent from Ferrari is going to be their new principal. So we don't have a start date yet. He was sitting on the pit wall, as usual today. So we'll see. We'll see.
It'll definitely be interesting. I wonder how Yuki's going to do. He's matured so much this year. I have a lot of high hopes for him. I have a feeling their friendship's gonna stick around. Beyond the grid and everything.
I think Fred is going to stay on consulting for 1 year. So I think that will be helpful if Yuki stays with them next year. But yeah, I think it motivates Yuki a little bit more this year to just really perform strong. I think that'll be huge. So
I wonder how much he would be interested. I wonder if Franz would even be, personal mentor to Yuki afterwards too.
I can see it. I mean, there's definitely a bond there, for sure on Yuki's part. So I don't know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. But speaking of retiring, Max this week said, I think he's considering after maybe his contract runs out at Red Bull. He said he's not at all interested in trying to, get the F1 record for world championships. That's what he said.
Not disappointed at all. I have my own opinions here, but I don't know enough about his history to see how much as we were talking earlier, I think there's some ulterior thoughts on this and motivation, but maybe it really is because he's got other desires, other things he wants to do. But I don't know. I find it like if you're somebody who likes to be number one, I find it odd that you wouldn't want to be number one and get all of those things.
Yeah.
But maybe his number one is that he just wants to dominate multiple areas of motorsports. So I don't know. I don't know enough about him to really make a good, I guess, a fair assessment on this one. Though part of me just like he could see that Checo is eating at his heels this year early on in the season, and it's just a little bit easier strategically to go, oh, I really have this other way that I want to do things, so I'm just gonna go ahead and announce it now, kind of thing. So I don't know. It could be a coincidence.
I think he did say, and I could see this being true. He said, it's going to depend on what the car's like that year, if they're still competitive. I think as long as they're competitive or dominant like they are this year, I could see him staying on. And that's what 2028, I think, is when his contract is up. So that's
5 more years.
That's 5 more years. He's already got 2. So you'd be at 7, which puts you with Lewis, unless Lewis,
there's another one. Yeah.
Here I'm like giving Max 5 more years of driving championships. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, even if he's close and doesn't hit all of those years, he might be close enough. And if they're still doing well, I could see him staying on and doing it. He started when he was 17. So I could also see him at that point being 30 years old saying, all right, peace out. Like he talked about starting his own team. I don't think that's an F1 necessarily, but starting his own team, racing in other, aspects of motorsports. So yeah, I could see him just wanting to be dominant across a lot of different things. So
could be.
We'll see. We shall see. And then Christian Horner.
Yes,
I want to know who this is. So if you hadn't heard, Christian, because Christian likes to stir the pot, right? So he put out there in some interview this week that after it was announced that Red Bull breached the cost cap in what was that 2021, he said that there was a team that started calling and reaching out to their sponsors to like try to get them to, I guess, come over to whatever team was calling them. And he said, I'm not going to tell you, I'll let your imagination run away with you. So again, Christian dropping the little, dropping the little things. But my initial thought, and I think I probably said it out loud, was this to me has Zach Brown written all over it.
Yeah.
But I've also heard people say Mercedes. So,
Like, what's the point? I mean, what's the point of doing that? I mean, other than just to get more drama in there, or is this, is this, and then like, how much of this is going to play into next season's Drive to Survive?
Right.
Oh,
true. Little storyline. Because they'll probably be asking the other principals, like, okay, who was it? But there's also such a thing as contracts and whatnot. I mean, I'm sure they're not doing yearly contracts with their sponsors. Maybe some of them, but not all.
Some of them. I would imagine some of them are multi-year.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know, just lame. And then more rumors this week. Everybody asking Charles Leclerc if he's talking to Mercedes to maybe pick up Lewis Hamilton's seat. I think this came out because we've had nothing better to talk about. And the whole Fernando Alonso and Taylor Swift rumor has, he was amping it up a little bit this week, but I think we just needed something new to talk about. So Charles said he loves Ferrari. He wants to win a world championship with Ferrari. He said, I know you guys don't believe me, but I have not talked to Toto at all. And I think that it really is just about Lewis. They haven't announced anything yet. Maybe they're still in talks, but I guess we needed another rumor this week. But I cannot picture Charles in anything other than red. I just can't. I tried.
Yeah, that one I can't. I can't imagine that one changing. But stranger things have happened, right? But yeah, I can't. It's some of the people you just can't see in a different team.
He's one. And I tried to picture him. In the black and the Mercedes. I can't do it. Can't see him on a podium.
I wouldn't mind, because I was thinking the other day, and I didn't even mention this to you. Like, if I had to pick like my teams right now, I mean, I like Alonso, but I do like Aston Martin, and Mercedes is my other team. I mean, that's the two teams I like. So, I wouldn't mind Leclerc being on, because I like Leclerc as a driver. So there's drivers I like, and there's teams I like. So there's Aston Martin and Mercedes are my teams, but I do like Charles Leclerc. He's one of my favorite drivers.
He's great.
So.
He is.
Yeah,
he's great. Really I'm hoping he also strikes me as somebody who's going to tell the truth. So I'm going with what he said.
He's also adorable.
He is adorable. I think he's adorable. Anya wasn't sure, but anyways, that's a whole. That goes back to the driver ratings. She liked it, but she didn't.
I wouldn't picture him to be her type. I don't know.
I kind of would. I don't know. No. Anyways, let's talk about quali. So quali on Friday, like we said, I mean, this whole new sprint setup, if you didn't watch, or I don't know, you lived in a hole this week or a cave, like Friday was qualifying for Sunday. So yeah.
It was, and it was interesting. There's a couple things that instead of going through it all the way through, we did that. The things that were the highlights for me was what we had red flag. Yeah. But when we came out of quali, I was expecting race day to be insane. So it was almost like, holy cow, look at all this craziness that happened during quali. And then race day was like, huh.
Yes. Yeah. I think quali and the sprint.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was expecting the same. There was so much happening. The race in comparison was kind of like,
yeah, but during quali, I mean, you see, we'll get to it, but you've got, we had so many hits on the ball, and they even said that every time you hit the ball, we're going to have at least a yellow flag, right? Because every time they hit the ball, we had a red flag, right? So that was crazy. So they didn't even restart Q1. They're just like, we just did Q1. I forget how many seconds were left. I took a picture of what happened, but that was the end. And then you had the the car fire, right?
Yes.
What you're talking about was like engine smoke, like brown
Yeah.
smoke, and you'd said you'd never seen that before. I
I've
don't know if you
never
ever
seen
got to the
runoff.
bottom of what actually caused the smoke,
Well, they said
caused
it
the
was,
fire.
they said the issue, I don't know if this, but the issue was a mounting bracket. I guess maybe was, I don't know, it wasn't in the right spot or something, but I had heard a mounting bracket. So how that releases brown smoke, I'm not entirely
It
sure, but
causes
I've
a fire.
never seen brown smoke.
Yeah, it causes a fire. It's just like,
Yeah, I don't know,
yeah,
unless it fell off and hit something else. But yeah, so like you mentioned, we had Nick DeVries hitting the wall. That brought out the first
just
red flag.
bam, just like
Like,
full on,
dude,
like he was
there's
aiming
a
for it.
runoff. There's a runoff right there. Like,
It was
just
almost
go
like he
straight.
was aiming for it.
He did. He did. This is what makes me so nervous about these street circuits. And I think what's even worse about this circuit is if you are not getting a time in right away and you have the yellow flags, you have the red flags, like you might not get a time. Like I think I was a little concerned that Carlos wasn't even going to get something, initially, but it's like you have got to get out there. That's why you saw cars like in the pits lining up before. Usually they're not all doing that, but they know you've got to get out there. But yeah, I don't know. I think with Nick, before he went out, he was the last one to go out. He was the last one to set a lap time. And I think they said there was a brake issue, but it looked more like a driver
Yeah.
error because he'd already been around two things. But I think that helped Kevin Magnussen because he was able to come in. He had an issue with his car, right? And
Yeah.
then so he was able to come in and get a little bit of work done on it. But yeah, that was kind of
And then Logan,
Logan.
poor Logan,
I,
he did so well, and then right at the
I
end,
know. Well, that was in Q2, right? So
yeah, in
in
Q2.
Q1, that was his first Q2, I think, to get there. So that was good. But what I thought was crazy, I felt so bad for Alpine and Gasly because
Yeah.
I
Oh
didn't get to
yeah.
watch practice. I never went back and watched it. You watched it, but he had brought out a red flag, right, in
Hmm.
practice. The team, I guess, from where the car was, it took forever to get the car back to the garage. So the mechanics were working double time to get him back into,
Yep.
so he could do quali. And then what happens? It just
Yeah.
brown
Well,
smoke.
they even said because there's no, and they said I think that was the driver. They said because there's no actual back access road, they had to wait before they could actually get him back into the
No.
garage too. Because there's no back roads, there's no like
Okay, that
direct
makes
roads
sense.
and service roads. So he had to like sit and wait where he had like wrecked out where he had stopped before they could
Oh,
get someone to actually drive him back to the garage too.
I
Yeah.
did not know that, but I just thought his poor mechanics were probably like, are you kidding me right now? All we did, now we have to do it again for tomorrow. We've got
Hmm.
to get you ready to go, which is crazy. And I think when that happened, was that right after there was 7.5 minutes left? And I think that's when um, Carlos didn't have a time at all. So
Yeah, I
I
think
was
that's what it
like,
was.
that was stressing me out. That was stressing me out big time. So who did we have out? DeVries, obviously, Gasly, obviously, Magnussen, Joe, and Hulkenberg, all out Q1. Done,
Yeah.
done, done. Yeah. Q2, I think that's when I noted like Carlos not looking good at all. He looked scared on that course. Not good.
Yeah. It
No,
was
not good.
crazy.
Just not good. But let's see. Yuki made his first Q3. Yay, Yuki. And I feel like he looked really strong. I mean, Nick, not so much, but like Yuki looking good, I thought.
Well,
Um,
Sargent had made the Q2, but of course his car was.
that's
Yeah,
right.
that's what I was just getting at. Is he made it the Q2, but
Yeah,
because he had wrecked out right there at the end of Q1, he
that's right.
couldn't do anything in Q2, so
Couldn't
he's at
go
the bottom
forward.
of Q2. Yeah.
And I think Williams was looking pretty good. Like I thought they looked strong in
Hmm.
qualifying. And like you said, him qualifying, they were both like seventh and eighth or something like
Yeah,
that.
he was doing so well.
Yeah. I like darn it. So that just stinks. I feel like he's had some bad luck this year, Logan already. Like I just want them to do, I don't know, to have it all
I
come together
know.
at the same time. Like that would be good. So out in Q2, Botas, obviously Sargent, Russell by 400th of a second.
Oh,
So
like,
so close. But also, Russell, again, if you're not out there and you're not getting those times in, or somebody's holding you up, or you were on a flying lap, and you couldn't, get
Yeah.
across. Like that sucks. Albon was also out, and then Ocon was also out in Q2. So then what we have Q3, this kind of blew my mind. So early on, Charles crossing the line the exact same time.
Exact to the hundredths of a second, the
Yes,
thousandths of a second. It was
as
insane.
Max, same as Max. So at that point, Max was still in first because he crossed the line first. I think we learned that with Logan Sargent in the first race, like where he had crossed the line. I think it was Logan, as somebody else, and didn't quite make it because the other person had crossed first. So that kind of blew my mind because those two cars, top cars, like that's crazy. Stroll's DRS not working at all.
Well, and that's after when Aston Martin make changes to that part, and I think both of the Aston Martins during FP1, during quali, and even during some of the sprints were just looking sluggish. They made some adjustments, I think Friday night, and even I think even Saturday. They
Oh,
looked better on Sunday, I think, because they said after Friday they were going to make some adjustments. And I swear they made some Sunday or Saturday because they looked better on
yes.
Sunday because Alonso was able to catch up and they were looking faster on Sunday.
Yeah.
But they said they adjusted the height of it and did some other stuff over the break, and it just looked slower. They just were to me they were struggling because
Yeah.
neither one of them were placing. I mean, come on, Alonso's hit podium the first every race up until this one, and he
Yeah.
started P6, was it, or P8
P6.
at P6, and he just was struggling to get up there and make P4 at the end. So
Yeah. Yeah. I know earlier this week or Friday, Saturday, you kept mentioning that. Like you kept texting and saying like you're mad about the upgrade. They messed up their car. They didn't look like themselves. To me, they look like the Aston Martin from last year. Where it's like you're kind of running like 8th
mhm.
and 10th and somewhere in there, and it's like you're okay. You're not great. You're okay, but yeah,
The
I agree
constant professionals, they were being positive and everything, but
always.
I just everyone feel it in their. I felt it. Like he didn't see, neither one of them seemed as excited or as out there. I think they're just not the types, either one of them the type to just come back and go, oh, the car sucked. Oh, they screwed up the
Oh
car.
yeah.
They're not going to do that kind of thing. The car sucked. I think.
I don't know. See, it's funny because like after yesterday, Lance stopped and did his thing, and he was so chatty. And even it was Laura and Will Buxton, and they even said after he walked away, like that is the chattiest Lance that we have ever seen. Like I think the adrenaline, for
Yeah.
just how everything was playing out with on Saturday, they just jump right into qualifying. There's no practice, no nothing. And he said, I think Lance said, he had a cold shower and some espresso and was like in the car to qualify. So he was, and I want to say today, I think it was Fernando that was like, when we had a tricky weekend, today was much better. So I do think that when you have upgrades, it's going to take a hot second for them to figure out the car, and,
Yeah, and
and
they
that's,
tweaked it.
that's
They
a
even said they were going to tweak it. They said that after Friday, they noticed that the changes that they made were not working as they had planned, and they had raised it. They were going to have to lower it some. They were going to have to lower that fin, and
yeah.
so they worked on it Friday night, and the DRS was not opening as they had planned. I think it was sticking or not opening like they had hoped, and so they watched it again on Saturday. So I think it got better, and then I think they tweaked it a little bit more because it did. Like I said, I think they performed better on Sunday, much
Yes,
better on Sunday than they did on Friday and Saturday.
I agree.
Markedly better Sunday to Friday. So,
Yeah. Oh,
but that
I
doesn't help you. Like if they had started up higher on Friday,
yeah,
then they would have done better on Sunday. So it is
exactly.
what it is. But
Yeah.
I think luckily they were able to make quick adjustments. So kudos to their pit for what they were able to do on such a
I'm
short
telling you,
notice over the weekend.
the mechanics for all the teams are just top notch,
Oh
right?
gosh,
Like the
absolutely.
stuff that they do when the when the cars crash or they have to make these adjustments. I mean, it's not a okay, like it's let's go, let's go, let's go.
It's
So
crazy
that
that
was
you're
pretty cool.
finishing up Q3. I mean, come on. I mean, look at all the stuff that happened. Because come on, our pole winner came in with half the front of the car missing. He comes in like they were talking, they were commenting. Charles comes in and like the front part of the car is gone. if you will.
On Charles' car?
Mm-hmm. He
I
got
don't
when
think,
he the front part of the fin was gone.
oh,
If
I
you
don't
go
think
look
I
at that,
noticed it.
yeah,
Oh
the
my
front
gosh.
piece. I guess that's the
No.
fin. The very front part of it was gone because for pole at the end of the quali. Yep.
Oh wow.
So
I
that's
have
happened like
not.
one or two other times that the pole winner comes in and that part of the car is actually was had damage.
I don't think I knew that, but oh my
Hmm.
gosh. But I mean, thank God at the very last second, Charles did cross that line and Max could just not pull it out. Could not pull it. Oh no, Charles, he did. No, wait. When did he crash? That wasn't in quali. That was in the sprint. Okay, never mind.
As a sprint, yeah, yeah.
Anyways, but he got
Sorry,
his third
he came
consecutive.
across first so many times, so
Yes,
it's like I'm
which
getting
is
him confused.
I think it's a blessing and a curse for Charles to be on pole because this was his third consecutive pole. They call him like the king of the poles, or that's what they were calling him this weekend. But it never converts to a win. It just doesn't. So I
That you
mean,
were saying.
I would like to respectfully ask that he stop aiming for pole. Like let's just get
Hippie
second.
too. Hippie too.
But then Saturday morning, what do we have? The shootout. The shootout. Like it's another qualifying session. And like we said, what I think is interesting. Okay, tell me your thoughts on this. So because we only had the one practice session, no teams were doing long runs to get data for the race. They went. They come to the track on Saturday morning, straight into another qualifying. Like teams had to adjust and learn on the fly, which is actually kind of cool, I think.
It was kind of cool. I thought it was interesting. Which team had a problem too of not having the right tires? They like ran out of like one of the types of
Oh,
tires.
there were two. So Lando was one, and I want to say Yuki was the other.
Yeah.
So they did not have an extra set of soft tires. So
Okay.
if they made it to SQ3, which requires soft tires, they couldn't run. So that is kind of an interesting little loophole because like Lando used all his softs in qualifying for Sunday's race, so he had nothing else. So I think that might be something they need to look at because
Yeah.
then, I mean, what's the point? Like you're not going to run Q3? I don't know. I don't know how the strategy really works on that, but I think it's lame. But the drivers they seem to be excited about this new sprint setup, like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They all kind of, and the pressers seem to be like, this is kind of
Yeah.
cool. Like, we will have to learn on the fly. We're just, one practice and we're jumping right into it. I think the only one that I heard, I'm not saying it's the only one, is Albon. So yesterday after the sprint, he said he's not a fan of it because he thinks that there's four top teams. I'm assuming Aston Martin, Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes. And he said it would take something, like a crash or, some sort of a DNF for those 8 drivers to not get the 8 points that are available in the sprint. So I'm
Yeah.
not.
I mean I can see his point there. Because it's just the 8. But I think it's interesting. I thought was really interesting was listening to Christian Horner talk post race today about just the amount of modeling they have to do by only having the one race in the morning and having to predict what's going to happen then Sunday afternoon, right? Because they only had one FP1. I mean, they
Right.
had the sprint, but the sprint shootout and the sprint race are different on what they do with the tires, the time
Yep.
of day, how hard they're pushing it, how many laps they're going to do. And so they
Yep.
have to use all that data,
Mhm.
engineering, modeling. I love all
Yep.
the math behind it that they're having to take that and put it into the computers and speculate and then strategize what are we going to do on Sunday for a 51 lap,
Yep.
much longer race,
Yes.
different time of day, and how are we going to run this now
Mhm.
off of what data we have in different scenarios, different environments, different time of day. I think that's
Yeah.
fascinating. See, that's where I start getting really geeky and excited because it takes so much science and math. And then you're
Yeah.
like, this is really, it becomes a very smart sport. And people don't
Yeah.
think about that level, the science behind it,
Yeah.
the sim. I mean, it's very technical and it's a lot of strategy involved. I've taken
Exactly.
the data from just a few points in time and having to, it's a new surface, right? There's much of the place had been resurfaced. And I was reading how Miami, there's parts of it. I think we were talking about, even you've got some of your notes were part of the parking lot has been resurfaced for the track.
It is a parking lot, but I
That's
think
the
like
United States. But
all
yeah,
of
all of that just it
yeah,
just goes into the
and
strategy.
you don't have, like you said, and we said earlier, it's like you don't have that benefit of doing any long runs in practice because they were all practicing, from what I understand, because I didn't watch it, they were doing a lot of short stuff, and
And
so
without a
that
full
was
tank of
one.
gas.
Right. And they had no idea what to expect with the tire degradation. So during the actual sprint, they started to notice it. Then how does that
Mhm.
translate into, you know, Sunday's race when you have, like you said, 51 laps? Like they
So
didn't really
much.
have that data. So pretty exciting. And I think it's, to me, I know there's a lot of people that aren't thrilled with it, but I've always loved a sprint. And I think it is kind of exciting because they are having to make these adjustments on the fly. And that's kind of
How
exciting.
many? And I was learning. I was talking to my colleagues who follows other aspects of motorsport, and there's so many other flavors of motorsport that do more sprints or do sprints all the time. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
fascinating to see. I wonder where F1 is going to take it.
I mean, I think we know Stefano is all about the entertainment value of it. So I think whatever he deems is going to bring maybe more entertainment, more drama, whatever you want to call it, that's the route that they're going to go for now.
It'll be interesting though if you mix in. I know we didn't talk about the F1 Academy yet, but if they add in F1 Academy during the same weekend and you have F2, like how much can you cram in on that? And then what does that do to your ticket prices and
True.
whatnot? Then do you start pricing out? They're already pretty expensive tickets
It's
to begin
expensive.
with. And then what do you do? Because there's only so much you can get crammed
That's true.
in there and moving cars in and teams in and all the equipment and whatnot. How much can you get in and out on the track and in and out of the paddock and in and off the grid on a weekend as well?
Yeah. I mean, there's usually a good chunk of time between F1 like practice or a practice and a quali. But like you said, if you're bringing in F2, if you're bringing in F1 Academy, like they make it work sometimes, but some of these tracks it's just not going to be feasible. If you've got a track like this one where there could potentially be a lot of yellows, a lot of reds. I mean,
Well, there's
that's
only there's only a few hours between the quality and the sprint too. There wasn't that
yeah,
much time.
yeah, just overnight. It's crazy. Well, qualifying or SQ1, I shouldn't say
I'm saying
SQ1.
SQ1 and the sprint and the actual sprint itself, shootout and the sprint itself is what I was getting at. There was only
Yeah,
a little bit of time.
yeah, that's true. There's not a ton of time at all. But we saw an SQ1, Nick DeVries, same spot, same spot
Yeah.
he crashed yesterday. Went deep again, bringing out the yellow flags. Um, then what? That's when Logan Sargent went into the wall at the end of SQ1. We talked about that. Went in too deep. He blamed Ferrari. Don't
Oh
you come
yeah.
blaming my boys. They were to the left. I did not see them anywhere in his way, but like, rookie should not be blaming the Ferrari drivers for 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 your errors. I'm just saying that. But like you had mentioned, he was P11. He would have gone on, I think, to SQ2. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but both Haas's made it through to SQ2, which I was a little surprised at because I feel like they're just kind of out there. So Gasly, I don't even know what his poor deal is. He towards the end of SQ1, he just stayed in the pits. He didn't even come back out. So he was out in SQ1. Um, Horrible weekend for them. We'll talk about that more. Joe was out. Botas was out. Same as qualifying. Or no, was Joe Joe wasn't out in Q1, I don't think. Yuki, Sargent's crash messed up Yuki because he was on a flyer and he was looking so good on that circuit
Oh
that
yeah.
I think if he had been able to finish that lap, I think he would have moved on to SQ2. But yeah, I mean, even if he had moved on to SQ2, we talked about this already. He wouldn't have had tires for SQ3 if he had gotten there, but I do think he could have gotten to SQ2. So SQ2. Now, here's one thing that I loved about your Aston Martin team is the teamwork this weekend. So we talked about Lance's DRS was not opening on Friday. Saturday, the same thing. So Fernando, right towards the end of SQ2, given his teammate a tow, pulled him right up into SQ3. I mean, to me, I was like, these two, like I am falling in love.
We talk about how Fernando's got that seasoned experience, right?
Yeah,
And he uses that. I saw that a couple times this weekend. So,
yeah, it
and
was
then they
crazy.
ended up
But
what, eighth and ninth
yeah,
in that. So yeah.
but they knocked out Piastri. He was like
Hmm.
that toe knocked Piastri out, but that kind of sucked because Lando made it through to SQ3, but he didn't have the softs to run, so he was going to be sitting out. Piastri, who had the softs, knocked out by by the Aston Martin. So that kind of sucked. And it was like he missed out by 300ths of a second. 300ths of a second. So
Oh yeah.
he was out in SQ2. Sargent was out, obviously. Hulkenberg was out. Ocon and then K Mag all out. Um, but SQ3, so if you haven't been like keeping track of how this new format works, there's less time than we normally have in qualifying. So SQ3 was only 8 minutes. And I want to say like there was only 5 minutes left and nobody had a time on the board. Like talk about pressure.
It was insane.
As we said, like if a yellow comes out, a red comes out and you don't have a time, like you're screwed. Like everybody needs to get out there and get it done. But towards the end, Leclerc crashed into the wall. I literally wrote down Monaco because that's what happened a couple years ago. And then the commentator said the same thing. I'm like, I know, I already said it.
That's the part I was talking about. That where he got in and got P1. That's where I was talking about.
Oh,
He got
yeah.
P1 with the crash.
Yes.
Or he got the crash was that he got the P1 right after the crash. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, is he going to keep it? He's limping along, and no one was able to beat it right there at the end. I'm literally
Which
on the
was,
edge of my seat, like,
I
ah,
was
ah,
too. I
ah.
was
And then
too.
they've got the picture of him there, and the front part of his car is gone.
Yes. Yes. And Max, like he was, I think the last car to come through. And I had the windows open. It was early here. And my poor neighbor, I'm like, I hope they're not out there. Cause I'm like, yeah, Cheryl, like Max didn't get it. Max didn't get it.
Me too. I was watching it taped. I didn't watch. I didn't look at the results. I'm sitting here at my desk because I was like, no, 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 no. Oh, okay. No, no, no. Just limp it in. Okay. Max still got to go across. Oh, yes, you did make it.
Close, but not close enough. That's
Yeah.
what they like.
Luckily, the apartments here have got very solid walls, and no one can hear me scream.
There you go. That's awesome. So then, yeah, we had the sprint in the afternoon. Logan didn't even try. The damage was too much for the team to, like you said, there was such a short amount of time. They just did not have it in them. They were giving it their all, but just nope, wasn't happening. And then what? Also, Ocon started from the pits for the sprint because he did some stuff to his car. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Russell tapping Max. We shall talk about this more in just a second, but
we put the video on our thing. Yeah.
oh my gosh, we did put the video on. But yeah, so what I thought was interesting with Russell in the sprint is he did not look that great in qualifying the day before. Didn't think he looked that great in SQ, sprint qualifying or shootout qualifying. And then all of a sudden he's elbows out, which BT dubs, I'm going to start using more English terms because I love elbows out, cat amongst the pigeons, all of it. Like I'm trying to work these into my regular vocabulary. But he was all elbows out in that sprint. It was like, where did this come from? This is not the George Russell that's been around yesterday and this morning.
Oh yeah, and there's no apologies too. He was just like, No, he's true, but I love that he was just like, and I saw a follow up too on today on social media of him basically saying, look, since we were X amount, like 8 years old, when you're on the inside, that's your position, and I held my position, and this is where I was supposed to be.
Oh yeah. Now Max had a response, so we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I saw that.
Poor Yuki, his little tire rolling down the hill behind him.
Dude, I'm gonna put some video up to this thing.
That was so terrible. So Nick DeVries again. Oh, poor Nick. He's like the Nicholas Latifi of this year. He so Yuki's thing brought out first a virtual safety car, then a safety car. Prior to that tire coming off, Nick DeVries tapped him, hit him, whatever. His whole left wing was gone. Craziness. Then Yuki's tire comes off. He goes in. They send him back out, and he's like crab walking down the track.
Did they ever come back? Did they ever come back and say if they was getting anything for sending out a car unsafe? I saw them talking about it. I don't know what the final result was.
I have not heard, so I'm not even sure. But he went in for the rest of the day after that. Like you can't obviously drive your car at an angle down the track. So yeah, that kind of sucked. But so what happened after the restart? Max got his spot back from Russell, so I'm sure he was chuckling in his car. Perez got past Leclerc. Leclerc did not even put up a fight. We talked about degradation. Like nobody seemed to know that was going to be happening. Charles' tires were shot. And then let's see, Charles finished second. So with that finish, because the top 8 got points in the sprint, he had 7 points, which is 1 point more than he's had after the first three races. Go Charles. So
Go Charles.
Good for him. But then once we got back to the pit lane, they show Max getting out of his car, looking at his car, and there's a big old gash in the side. Now that slowed him down, obviously, on the track. He got third, if you weren't watching. But the convo between Max and George, what I thought was funny, like, okay, so if you don't know, Max saw George starting to walk kind of in between where they line up the cars and park for May, the first, second, thirds. And he just beelined right for him. And, George was saying, I don't know if we have the full thing, but George was basically saying, like, we didn't have grip. Max is like, none of us had grip. Then George said to watch the onboard. I know that was said. And then George started to walk away, and Max starts kind of going after him. He can't even get his words out, threatening George, like, well, expect more of the same, or, next time, or whatever. And then he turns around and he calls him, I'm just going to say it out loud, a dickhead. Calls him a dickhead. Now, if you watch or follow F1 on social media, they cut it at that point. They don't show the full thing. And so, I mean, Max. So afterwards, Christian Horner made a comment that George is lucky he was wearing his helmet. I don't know what kind of veiled threat that's supposed to be.
I know, right? That was a bit much.
Saying like your driver's gonna start a fist fight in the pit lane. Like, come on now. So that was crappy. And then you mentioned what George had said, and Max told the Dutch media, or one Dutch media outlet, he called George a princess. He said,
I know, Princess George. I saw that.
Princess George. Like, if he was talking about defending on the outside, and he's like, what, I'm not supposed to, defend my position from Princess George or something to that effect. So, I'm just going to say this, like towards the beginning of the week, the last couple of weeks, I feel like there's been some interesting stuff coming out about Max. And I feel like was giving me a little insight into who he was, the documentary, just how he was raised, to really just be all about racing. There was a cute little thing apparently with his girlfriend's daughter where he was doing his gaming, and she wanted him to play Tea Party, so he bailed out on the gaming. And I'm like, they've been showing some very funny videos on Red Bull, all that good stuff, and then this happens. And I'm like, you are such a freaking little baby. You do the exact same thing. George does the exact same thing. You don't apologize. And today I sent this to you in Insta, but an F1 meme page put together a whole compilation of all the times, maybe not all the times, but several times, where Max was running people off the road. Does he apologize? No. He calls it racing. Yeah. I just was
trying to see if I can find that thing that I saw. But it was interesting. Yeah, it was like the two different things that they had to say, and it was like seriously. Well, it's if it's on him, he's not going to take it. But if it's against him, it's always the other person's fault.
Of course. I think that's how Max is. And I think George can sometimes be the same way. But But why do we have to elevate it? Like, you can have your say, you can tell him, but why the threat at the end? Max, we know, doesn't forget because he screwed over Checo last year after, still blaming him races later about Monaco. Max doesn't forget. And I think that at some point this season,
Oh,
he's
this
going
is
to
so
retaliate against George.
It is so sad. They got Charles saying, for me, it was the loneliest race ever.
He did. Well, that's just because like he was so far behind the Red Bulls, but yeah, we'll get
Yeah.
to it. What else? I think that was about it. So race day. Oh my goodness. It was kind of a, like you said, I mean, you called it a smooth race. I think I said it was uneventful.
I thought you said boring, is actually, I think
I
that's
did
what
say
you said.
boring. I was trying to jazz it up a smidge. It was a little bit boring. I mean, I'm always going to watch, but it was a little boring. Alfa Romeo. I've said it before. I'll say it 1,000 more times probably this year. What is happening? What is happening
No,
with
it's
Alfa
almost
Romeo?
like I forget they're racing.
Because they're at the bottom. And like, if you had told me at the beginning of the year, like Alfa Romeo and especially Bottas is going to be consistently running 19th, 18th place, I would have been like, no way. It's Valtteri. Like, that's not going to happen. He
Never would
said today
imagine
that
it.
and I didn't see this, but he said he picked up some damage in lap 2. I don't know what that's for,
Hmm.
and Joe did not finish the race at all. Again, I don't know why. I listened to their follow up after the race, but I don't think well, I know they didn't say on there. So I don't know why he didn't finish. But they have zero pace. Zero pace. I feel like they are the lowest team out there. That's just me, at least for this week. And Williams. Williams, they were highs and lows.
They show such promise, and then something
Mhm.
just seems to just like rip the carpet out from underneath them. Like
Yeah,
they show like they're doing so well, and it's like the proverbial black cloud, like
yep.
Murphy's law. Like I don't know what it is.
I don't either.
They're going and they just like whack, something knocks them
Exactly.
off their
Because
feet.
they
I
have
don't.
it seems like they have the pace. Maybe they just have the pace
Yeah,
in
and I
qualifying.
think they've got a decent car too.
I do too. And I think you've got two good drivers. Like, I think
I
we can
think so
even
as
see,
well.
even though Logan hasn't had, the best start so far, I think they're
I
both
think
really good.
I think Logan's actually my favorite rookie.
Really?
Yeah, I think
I
he's. I
think
don't know.
he's
There's something in.
my favorite rookie too. Now that I
He
think
just
about it.
he's
Nick DeVries is not making
quietly.
up.
He's like quietly got a lot of just like he's like the quiet one, right? He's like
Yeah.
quietly from behind, just so good and just
Yeah.
like humble about it and just out there. I mean, because he was doing so good going into to Q2,
Yep.
and if it weren't for that wreck, he would have just been. I think he would have just been phenomenal in Q2, and I think he had a chance for Q3,
Yeah.
but
Hopefully
he
that,
just
like you said, that little cloud will lift. Next week is basically a home race for Logan because he's from Florida. He's from Fort Lauderdale. The race is in Miami. So I'm sure he's going to be super excited. But again, like, they're my little team that could. And I love both of those drivers. Well, I really love Albon. Logan, I just don't know him well enough. But I think that it's there. It's like you said, there's just
yeah.
this little cloud that's following them, and something weird always seems to happen. But poor Haas. Like, I really want.
And we love Gunther.
Oh, we love Gunther. I like K Mag. It's the same. It's like, I mean, Hulkberg, he was on those hards all day, so that was pretty good. Towards the end, people were passing him, but I mean, hello, he went 51 laps or 50 laps, I think, on that. He said they made some changes overnight. He started from the pits because of that, but yeah, he said that the changes they made gave him a better pace, but still, for the most part. And then AlphaTauri. Yuki did get points. He got a point, another point for Yuki. So he
I mean,
finishes.
at least all the teams have points right now, but
Yeah,
we
I
do
was
have
happy for
we've
Yuki,
got
but
some splits now though. We've got Williams at 1, sorry, at 2.
poor Nick, like we were saying, I mean, he is just having. I mean, he excelled. What, in F3, F2? Was he the driver that was
Mm-hmm.
in E Formula? But what a start to his F1 career. He's crashing. like
And for so much confidence coming into it, out of
yes.
into the season that he's going to dominate. He's going to set this leadership role and whatnot, and it's
Yeah.
just not
But
there.
I don't think he was wrong in thinking that. I mean, he has
No, I
been
don't
so
either.
successful in the other careers, and when he filled in last year, it was just like, wow, like we got to get this guy in here. But right now, it's not looking good. And I wonder for him, like, how is he doing mentally? Because to be so successful, to come in thinking you're going to do well, maybe
Yeah.
not great, but you're going to do well. And granted, the AlphaTauri car, not amazing. But I just hope that it doesn't really kind of send him backwards mentally. Like he's got to retain that confidence. He's got to come up with that. But I don't know. And then Alpine, 2 races in a row, which is, I think they want to just pretend this weekend never happened. Never
I
happened.
agree. I agree. I mean, it didn't start well for them, and then it just didn't end well for them. So
It did not end well for them. I mean, literally. So Gasly basically ran at the bottom the whole time. But lap 51, Ocon had to come in to get tires. He was on hards the entire race. You are required to pit. He comes in and there's a whole bunch of people there in the pit. He said he was going 300 kilometers per hour and coming into that pit. And then he sees those people. So he had to brake really quickly. But could you imagine coming
I
in
still
and
know why you didn't pit during the safety car. If you're required to pit, like why didn't you just get the pit over then? Like
they were
everybody, you had.
they were hoping for another safety car. They because
Yeah.
both him and Hulkenberg, it didn't work out the way the strategy. They were hoping for another red or another safety
I
because they
know,
were in
but
the points. They were in the points, and they were kind of out of position being in those points.
I
But
know. It
like
just it makes sense because it was such a crazy weekend and whatnot, and you never expected it to be such a calm race,
yeah,
then look what it gets you, right? There wasn't another one, and then you're forced to pit, and
right.
then it ended up being a bad strategy.
Sometimes you take the chance, but yeah, it ended not in a calm way for Ocon, almost hitting 50 people. Um, let's see. Talking about quiet rookies, though, I think that Piastri is also a quiet rookie,
Hmm.
and he's also kind of been in there. They said he was sick all weekend. Poor guy.
Yeah,
After the race
poor guy.
today, him and Lando did a little press, did their little video for the team, and he said he just did. He looked pale. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say
yeah.
he looked sick, and he said, right, really, honestly, like I just want to eat something right now, and like poor guy. I just felt
I
bad.
feel for it because I've been dealing with the coming back from the U.S. and I'm still
Yeah.
kind of recovering from that, so I know what it feels like. So
Yeah, it's so sad. But Lando mentioned, they had their upgrades. We talked about that basically from the first race. We were expecting them. Zach Brown told us, don't really expect to see the results of that. And Lando echoed, he said the same thing. So they're looking forward to Miami. Everybody's looking forward to Miami after this thing. But what I do think is interesting is at the beginning of the season, which again, we're still on the fourth race, but the first few races, McLaren was at the bottom consistently, like the bottom, like even below like Alfa Romeo
hmm
and stuff. And they are looking more like that mid pack team, Australia and this race. I think Australia, they got points. That wasn't necessarily on merit totally, but they are looking more like a mid pack team, I think. So I
it's
don't
just
know.
interesting. The top four teams are just so far ahead from the rest of the teams because Ferrari is at 62 in fourth place, and then McLaren's at 14
Yeah.
at fifth place.
Wow.
So it's such a gap between the top four and the bottom six.
And if you think about that, as far as like the constructor goes, like Ferrari didn't get any points last weekend. I mean, not last weekend, an eternity ago when we were in Australia. So think about like that's kind of crazy that there's that big of a difference and they didn't even get any constructor points last
Yeah.
last time out. So
Yeah, and they're only 14 behind Mercedes. So it's 62, 76, 87, then
and you'll
180.
see Aston Martin jumped up because Mercedes was in second in the constructors, and today Aston Martin is now in second.
Yeah, they're 87. So,
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
then
they're
it's
all at 180.
14, 8, 7, 6, 2, 1. So it's like such a huge divide between the bottom six and the top four.
Yeah, and that kind of goes along
There's
with
no
like
mid pack. It literally is two halves or
yeah.
two 40% 64, but 2 sections.
The
There's no
haves and
mid-pack.
have-nots.
Yeah.
Upstairs, downstairs, whatever. Yeah, and Mercedes kind of the same. Like they did not look great this weekend,
No.
except for I don't know. I mean, here's the
I
thing.
mean,
Today,
Russell, they
Russell
kind of.
yesterday in the
I
in the
think I
sprint,
think it was Aston Martin and Mercedes, and like Ferrari kind of. I don't know.
we don't know what's
It's a
happening
little
with
weird.
Ferrari.
It's a little weird. It's a little weird.
But Mercedes, here's the thing that I thought was interesting today is they could not muster enough speed to get past the person in front of them. So Hamilton
True.
could not get past Carlos Sainz, who, he said not confident at all. Russell could not get past, I think it was Stroll. So
Yep.
they were there, and Hamilton was close many times. He just could not pull it out. So they still have work to do on their car. But, I think they're going to keep getting better and better and better. But today for the race, it just wasn't it. And Lewis said it was a challenge, like the whole weekend was a challenge.
Yeah.
I think for
I
a lot of
agree.
teams. But your Aston Martin team, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I said I don't belabor the point. Like I said, I whatever they did to the car that the DRS really hurt them on Friday and Saturday. They did some tweaks and quickly, and it got better on Sundays today. So
Yeah.
we'll see if hopefully it'll continue tweaking to the right, and we'll get Alonso back on podium. Maybe Stroll get up there. At least they got points. We're third,
They
so
both got
it's
points.
good.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's
Both got
good.
points. And honestly, like Fernando was right on Charles's tail at the end. Like
I was a little worried because he was catching up, and then he started going back to the right. I was like, I literally am sitting there, come on, look at your 4 tenths. Wait, come on, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, you missed the DRS, and like, oh, if you could have just right there at the end, but.
Yes, even in the driver room after the race, and it was obviously Checo and Charles and Max. He said, Fernando almost caught me. Fernando was right up on me, so he was very, very aware how close he was. But again, we don't have to go into it a lot. But I am just so impressed with the teamwork, like Alonso coming onto that team and helping. Just the team in general, right? With his knowledge, helping Lance, like he said during the race, told his engineer, tell Lance about my brake setup. It's working really good right now. Like,
and at one point they were telling Alonso like to move ahead, and Stroll's mind. He goes, "Oh, like he can get past me." Like he was telling him, "No, if he needs to go past, let him go past." Like I forget the whole verdict, but he pretty much was like, "No, he can go past me. That's fine. Like I don't need to be ahead." Like.
But
I'm like,
Fernando
that's
is
really
not
nice of you, and I'm like, no, Alonso, you need to stay ahead.
Fernando is not gonna Stroll is not getting past Fernando. We laughed when we heard that because it's like, yeah, tell him to go past. Not gonna happen. Like
Not gonna happen.
Like he's not getting past me. No, thank you. So that was kind of crazy. But my team, so from your team to my team, it was awesome. I'm so not gonna lie. Amazing to see Red back up on the podium.
I love Charles, so I was very happy for Charles.
But they don't have the pace. Nobody has a pace to keep up with the Bulls. But I wrote this down while we were doing this. So, both of the Red Bulls passed Charles because obviously Charles started on pole, finished third. Charles never put up a fight, and when Max passed him towards the beginning, he was 30 kilometers per hour, 18 miles per hour faster when he passed Charles. 18 miles an hour faster, just passing him right there. That is ridiculous. So then I started keeping track after Checo got in the lead. At lap 22, Checo was 9 seconds ahead of Charles. I wish I would have written down when Checo, well, it was after they pitted Max. That's how he got in first. So anyways, lap 25, Checo was 11.4 seconds faster. Lap 29, he was 13.5 seconds faster. 10 laps later, he's 16.4 seconds faster. Like after that, I stopped even looking. He probably ended up like 20 seconds faster than Charles, but that is how dominant.
He ended the race. He ended the race 21.2 seconds ahead.
Yeah, but like if you look between 22 and 25 in 3 laps, he was more than 2 seconds faster, and then 4 laps later, again, he's 2 seconds faster. Like that.
21 seconds ahead of Charles, and then he ended 45 seconds ahead of Carlos.
Yeah. Well, Carlos was he here's my
But,
thing.
but just
You know
to show,
Carlos is
like,
a good guy.
but like this, how fast he was, 100 seconds ahead of Logan, who ended in 16th, and he
Yeah.
lapped Nico and Bottas.
Yep. I saw them lapping. But it's like, I don't know, sometimes
How fast he is. Checo
both
is fast.
of the Red Bulls. I mean, I think Max was a few seconds, like 3 seconds behind at the end.
2.1.
Yeah.
2.1.
But I mean, Carlos said, hands up, I admit, like, I was not confident under braking on this course. We didn't have the pace. Charles said we did everything we could. Just, I think what I was afraid of at the beginning of the season, the Red Bulls are too dominant. They're too dominant. They're winning by 20 seconds over the third place team. That is insane. And gaining a second every lap. Like,
I wonder. I know we're like already at an hour. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
so much this
we
week.
don't have that much more to go. We don't have a timeline.
I just wonder, it just hit me. We talked about how they, hit the cost cap, whatever the cost cap, right? And it went into this car. Now, what if they just free for all, said all the other teams meet the same cost cap that go over the same cost cap the Red Bull did? They all get to make it fair and square.
Yep. I don't
Bring
know.
it all up because they've gone over and they have the dominant car and they're blowing everybody in the water. So let's just make it even.
Yeah. It is insane.
Everyone to bring up and bring it up to fair.
Yeah. It to me it is crazy. But listen, vamos Checo, because
Yeah,
I love Checo. Love him. My
too.
mom, I said she's visiting. She lives in Mexico. She came in towards the end and said, who won? And we said, Checo, because I think we were actually yelling, Checo. And she said, that's who I wanted to win. So he gained this weekend 33 points on Max in the driver championship. 33 points. So Max is currently at 93, Checo at 87. It could be a duel for the driver championship between these two. They each have.
And Max did not get fastest lap.
No, he did not. Thank you, George. George, I just realized that it was George that did it, and Max was.
I loved it because he had it, and he'd already crossed the finish line, and then George came in and took it from him. I was just cackling.
George,
I was cackling. Yeah, George came and got it. So I love that. So he lost that point. No, I think that's great. And so I'm not a Red Bull fan, but I'm a Checo fan. I'm definitely a Checo fan.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he has now they're calling him King of the Streets because this is 4 out of 5 wins are on the streets. He has more wins than Charles now. I think Max it didn't hurt him too much, but he had a little bit of a Ferrari strategy at the beginning when they pitted him before the safety car happened. But he went right back up into third pretty quickly. But did you notice at the very end the pit wall celebration? The Red Bull.
Oh yes.
The Red Bull mechanics were on the pit.
I'm like, what happened? I thought that wasn't allowed.
They were like, screw it, we're doing it anyways. I loved it. I love to see it. I love Checo. I think that they love Checo, and I think that it probably was just that excitement. They just ran and I mean, I'm making that. But anyways, yeah. So, but Charles got pole. That was good. He was on the podium, and he released a single this week that shot to the top of the music charts. I was going to play it. I don't know if we have time to. I wasn't going to play the whole thing because it's kind of long. Hang on. Let me see if I can find it really quick. It's beautiful.
You didn't load it in our thing for me to share it here.
Oh, wait. You can't listen to T-Pain. Hold on. I had my playlist on this morning when I was, yes. If you haven't figured it out yet, I listen to a lot of hip hop. I love it. I'm in my backyard, watering the plants, singing a little Cardi B. My neighbors, I'm sure, love it. Wait, let's see if we can hear this. I don't know. Oh, wait. You can't hear it. Hang on. Why do I still have that in my ear? That was from earlier. Hang on.
I don't know.
How do I? Oh, darn it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. It's beautiful.
We'll share it on the next one.
No, hang on. I got it. I know you're ready to be like, let's be done.
I can overlay it in post.
Okay. Here. Do you hear it now?
Oh, it's beautiful.
He's a great pianist. So he said that he did all of that. So at first I thought, did he have like strings and stuff come in and record with him? But he said he used like a electric piano. So he did his piano part on his actual probably grand piano of some sort. And then he went to his electric piano and recorded the rest of it. So he was in the top 10 on several platforms. So all in all, I would say it's been a pretty good week for him. In the presser, he said, Lewis Hamilton is also very musical. I've seen him play the piano. He sings. And so Charles said maybe they could do something together, but Charles tends to do more depressing songs, and Lewis, he thinks, does more happy songs. So you never know. You never know. I'm sure there's somebody else that's got skills out there. Let's have an F1 band in the off season.
That'd be cool. I'll play French horn. I'll jump in.
Yes. That'd be amazing. I could be your alt manager. I think that would be great.
Our marketing strategist.
Yes. Yeah, I'll be the marketing strategist. Okay, so Bernie Collins, I wanted to throw this out there because we do our Beyond the Grid segment in between races. We always are trying to teach a little something. Bernie Collins is a former race strategist for Aston Martin, and she is no longer with the team, but she's doing a lot of stuff on TV, I think with Sky Sports maybe. But she put out on her social media that she is going to be doing a webinar talking about F1 strategy and the software that the teams use. So she's going to talk about how the teams capture data from more than 1,000 different data points per second to power over 2 million predictive simulations. I was like, poof, my head is just exploding with that. So I did sign up. It's free. You can go sign up for it. It's going to take place sometime after the Miami race. So probably that week after. But since we talk about that kind of stuff, and especially you, Claire, like you geek out over, you were talking about that earlier, like all the data that they put in. And she was really, really good at what she did as a strategist. I am totally sitting in on that. I think it's going to be so interesting. You'll be able to learn a lot. So I wanted to throw that out there for anybody that's listening and wants to learn more. Go to her page. It's Bernie Collins, Bernie. She has an Instagram page, and from there was a link in one of her posts, so you could go sign up. So I just wanted to PSA. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Good to know.
Good to know. And everybody's on the merch boat. We're not the only ones coming out with merch. Everybody's now coming out with merch. You've got Williams has been killing it this year, but for Miami, I think it's like Williams, Red Bull, McLaren. They've all got Miami themed merch. All the fans are going to go broke buying all this really cute stuff. But anyways, yeah, everybody's probably seeing how well Williams is doing, and they're like, we're on it.
Gotta get on it.
We're on it.
Well, next week, Miami.
Back to back. Going to Miami. Bienvenido.
Miami. Yeah. Well, and then if you didn't know, we were just talking about this. F1 does allow you to sign up to subscribe to their calendar feeds. Like if you've got Google or their your calendar, you can have their calendar feed into yours. You can conveniently have all of it, all the races the rest of the year, all the times in your calendar. So mine is at 9:30 at night my time.
Yeah, 12:30 my time.
So we may be able to record right after, if not record the next day. So I'm excited. So excited.
It's going to be fun. I mean, we talked about Australia being a party. Miami is 100% party. It's like nothing. It's all celebrities last year, right? Like celebrities, sports stars, everybody was there. Tickets are pricey. It's another street style circuit. So I feel like we've had a whole clump of those at the beginning of this season. Like you said before, it is in the parking lot of the Hard Rock. It's where the Miami Dolphins play NFL football, and it's basically in the parking lot, so it's semi-permanent. But they did resurface. So after last year, there was a lot of complaining from the drivers who just said like there were certain spots I think that were very slippery, and they were like, no, we're not going to do that. So the Miami people said, well, we didn't have to resurface, but we want to have the best experience. We don't want them to be all slippery. So they did resurface. So that could be interesting. And they are expecting it to improve overtaking. So the grip should be better. So they're hoping that it won't overtake. Because last year, I think the race might have been a little dull. So because teams weren't willing to take that.
Yeah, take the risk.
Yeah, exactly. Take the risk. So they're hoping for more side-by-side, the overtaking. They did come up with a new F1 paddock. So I think all the teams are inside, like their little village is inside the stadium itself, like kind of on the grass. So it's their own, like almost little separate village from everything else. And then they created this, or they expanded the paddock club. So now there's 3 levels, and I think they can see both sides. I think they can see into the village inside, and then they can see out onto the track. So I don't know. That kind of sounds cool.
And it makes sense that they do the Miami race this part of the year and at the last part of the year, because you can't do it during hurricane season because there's don't want to. Yeah, because hurricane season in Florida is June until November, so you don't want to have races during hurricane season because it's too big of a risk of it being canceled.
That's so true. But you know what I just thought about? A few weeks ago, that whole parking lot, not the whole parking lot, but quite a bit of it was underwater. They were showing people. So I wonder what the research.
It rains every day in Florida.
I know, but this was up to people's knees. So I wonder with the resurfacing, now that you just mentioned that, I didn't think about that, but with the resurfacing and then having those torrential rains, I wonder what the track really is going to be like. But anyways, here's the lowdown on it. 19 quarters, there's 3 straights, top speeds of 320 kilometers. So that's almost 200 miles per hour. And there's 3 DRS zones. So there's some high speeds areas. There's some tight turns. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Last year was the very first race. This is just their second race. I think we're going to have a lot of content, lots of celebrities. Max won last year, was Max, Charles, and Carlos on the podium. I would not be opposed to seeing 2 red suits on the podium this next week.
To see a green one. I'd like to see a green one.
Green and red. So we shall see. It should be another really fun weekend. I love a back-to-back. Like, let's go.
Let's go. All right. Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So,
a lot to cover in these sprint weekends. This is going to take a toll on us.
It's going to be fun, though. It's going to be fun. And we did not cover F1 Academy because, holy cow, it's a bit confusing. We've got to figure it out. We don't want to bring it to you guys until we've got it at least somewhat understood. And it's chaos incarnate. So once we get that figured out, we'll bring it to you. But anyway, thanks for sticking it out. It was a long ride, but we think it was worth it. And always great seeing you. And you weren't purple at all. So it was awesome.
All right. We'll see you in Miami.
All right. See y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind-the-scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/She Loves the Grid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.